I didn't know any Muslims. The only Muslim I knew was my ex, and out of morals, out of my own morals, I don't think it's correct to keep that relationship going unless there's a proper reason to. So I didn't have a single Muslim in my life. I started scrolling on Instagram and I found a few videos and I found a comment and I commented on one or two. And the only person I knew was someone who had also replied to my comment. And she messaged me saying, if you ever need any help, send me a message. And she was the one I messaged the night I took my shahada saying, I don't actually know what to do. Can you help me? But after that, I didn't really have anyone. So I just look on YouTube, look at talks, look at podcasts, and learn as much as I could from that. The Quran was really difficult to understand at points. Like there'll be verses that just don't make sense. Even if you know Arabic fluently, they also won't make sense until you understand the meaning behind it and the context in which the verse was revealed. So I started looking into that as well, the tafsir of the Quran. Um, so the first 4 weeks were just me not knowing what to do. For example, the first time I prayed, which was actually before Islam, before taking my shahada, I was I started Googling how to pray, and I didn't know whether I could be on another floor or the ground floor. I thought, do I need to be on the ground floor, like on Earth, or can I be higher up in a building? I just didn't know anything. So it was just this new thing, trying to learn as much as I could. Obviously, I think everyone gets overwhelmed at the beginning because you start to realize how much there is. Trying to keep up the prayers is so funny as well, especially in the UK, because the times in the UK, for anyone that doesn't know, is vastly different throughout the year. And then also at that time, it was winter, which meant all of the prayers were in a tiny sliver of time. So I try and keep up with the prayers, do one prayer, and then 30 minutes later, the adhan on my phone would go off again. And I'd be like, oh my God, you have to go again and again and again. So it was a lot right after taking the Shahada, especially because I was learning by myself. Um, I felt like there was no one to actually go to for help. And then about maybe 3 weeks or 4 weeks after taking my Shahada was the first time going into a mosque. And I remember stepping into the mosque feeling so nervous, thinking, like, these are people who have seen the craziest stories on news articles, and somehow I've joined this group of people without ever actually talking to them. I stepped into the mosque, and the first person I spoke to was like, "Ah, welcome to the Cambridge Central Mosque. Have you ever been in a mosque before?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Ah, well, join us, join us." And then soon after, no, actually, the first person I met was the security guard, who the first thing he said was, I said hello, and he just went, "Go pray." And I was like, "What? I don't know how to pray. I've never been in a mosque before." And he said, "Oh, go to talk to that man." And then the other man started saying, "Oh, welcome to the Cambridge Central Mosque." And then I went to pray with them, which was my first well done prayer, which was funny because there were so many moments during the prayer that the guy next to me would nudge me to try and correct me because I was doing the completely wrong thing. Like my hands were on the floor, and then I was just like completely, I messed it up completely. And it was so funny. But after they said it was fine. And in that one visit to the mosque, my first time, I was there for an hour and I must have met 11 or 12 people. All of them were so nice. They invited me for coffee. They all invited me to their houses, and I was in a rush, so I couldn't go. But it blew my mind, the first mosque visit. It was just like the difference between the fear I had and the expectation of like the anxiety, which makes you think of the worst possible situation, and then what actually happened was completely different. It was one of the best experiences of my life.
Reminds me
So
of
yeah.
why one of the most important things we need to do as a community is be really open and welcoming to reverts. Because I think every revert
Mm,
does have that, oh, what's going to happen when I go to the mosque? Like, I'm going to stand out. I'm going to be different.
yeah.
But then a lot of
And
also people say, but then they're taken in, right? And everyone's like, it was so kind. They were so nice to me because I had the same experience.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, to be honest, you hear horror stories, but they're so rare. There's only one person I've known who wasn't allowed into a mosque, and it's because he had a ton of tattoos on and he was in a different country. But most
Mm.
mosques will comfortably welcome you in.